Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you start it live? Hello, everyone. Hello. If you would, I just want to have you sit back and relax, grab you some water, get you some tea or something, and you're going to be entertained for the next hour by some exciting young people here on the set with me this evening, and I just can't wait to get started. My name is James Branch, and I'm the host of the show, and with me is Mr. Daniel Taylor and Kelsey Walker, and I'm going to save this one for Daniel. She's a special guest. And
Very
Daniel,
special.
would you just go ahead and lead off and introduce who we're working with tonight?
Yeah. So for tonight's episode, we have a very special guest with us. She's a woman of God, first and foremost, in addition to a highly accomplished athlete, businesswoman, and minister. It's my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Demetria Washington Davis.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Now, Demetria, I'm going to let you introduce yourself,
Okay.
but you have such an impressive resume. I did a little bit of research.
Okay.
I want to do attempts, heavy on attempt, to summarize who you are and what you're about. Is it cool if I try to do that?
Oh, of course, absolutely.
And just before you get started, our other co-host is...
Good evening, Dr. Kelsey Walker Pope. Glad to be here tonight.
All right, thank you. Okay, let's hear this wonderful background about this exciting event, individual. Let's go.
All right. And jump in if I get anything wrong.
Oh,
Please
no.
feel free to correct me.
You jump in.
All right.
You got it.
Yeah.
All right. Demetria Washington Davis is a former track and field star at Terry Sanford High School and the University of South Carolina. She was a six-time NCAA champion and was part of the women's outdoor track and field team that won the 2002 NCAA championship. Her 21 All-American honors remain the most in school history. And in 2003, she was a member of the 4x400 meter relay team that took home the gold medal at the World Championships in Athletics in Paris, France. And off the track, Davis is a pastor, caterer, mother, and grandmother. She started her own catering business, Steve's Champion Cuisine, in January of 2021. Along with her catering business, she and her husband are pastors at Force of Life Fayetteville, a non-denominational ministry. Davis was named the 2022 North Carolina Mother of the Year by American Mothers Incorporated. And she credits her mother, a school cafeteria employee, and her father, who served for 36 years in the Army and retired as a command sergeant major, with giving her the sense of discipline that brought her this far. So again, welcome, Demetria. It's a privilege and a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. So how do we want to kick things off? I have a couple questions. Do you all want to?
Well, ladies first. Let's stick to that order.
All right. So again, thank you so much for being with us this evening.
Absolutely.
You and I share something in common, having been former track athletes. But I'm curious as to what was it that made you want to start running? What was it that made you want to start running? And when was it that you actually realized that you were good at it and you could go to the next level?
Right. So for me, what made me start running, I think it was more so that my mom said I used to run everywhere around the house all the time. But I remember my dad telling me the story of when I was little, because he was in the military. And so he told me that he would go to PT and he would go to the track and run around, and he would take me with him. And he noticed and looked down and said, this little girl is still running beside me. Mm-hmm. And so from there, my parents seen it.
Okay.
And so my parents seen it. And of course, in, elementary school, you do the field day and stuff like that, so things like that. But my parents seen that there was something there, and so that was when they started looking for different summer track programs for me to run in. And so that is how it started. As far as going to the next level, which I'm sure we'll probably get into those questions, but it was just a drive, but it came from what my parents saw.
Okay.
And it initiated there because they saw the God-given talent. Mm-hmm. And so that's where the root started from.
Okay. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. I guess if we're going to talk sports, one of the things I was very curious about, first of all, I also saw that you were inducted into the 2023 University of South Carolina Hall of Fame.
Yes.
So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm curious what it was like to be an athlete in the SEC. I'm sure there are a lot of interesting intersectional aspects thinking about being a black woman, especially in that conference. So I wonder if you could just talk about any challenges you all faced and how you overcame them.
It was an amazing time. The SEC is the best conference. So I'm sorry, ACC fans, all the other fans, but SEC is to me the best conference. As you've noticed that over the years, because when I first started running track, the schools that are in the SEC now were not formerly in the SEC. They've added some, but I just know that it was an amazing. The SEC, which is the Southeastern Conference, is one of the best conferences in the country. And most of the time at NCAAs, at nationals, the whole final, most of the time was SEC. But it was an amazing experience. And I would say, and you were talking about being a black woman and the things that I may have had to face. So I went to the University of South Carolina, which the University of South Carolina, we talk about predominantly, white institutions,
yeah.
And then we talk about our black institutions. So the University of South Carolina has one of the highest percentages of black students. That is a PWI. But my experience there was amazing. I didn't really go through anything that I could say was a big challenge in that area. But I will say this. When we won the national championship, NCAAs, we were the first team ever in the history of the University of South Carolina to win a national championship as a team. Of course, there were individuals, but as a team sport at the University of South Carolina, we were the first one. The women were the first one. So I will tell you that it was a challenge because the baseball team at the time was good. They got first runner-up at the national championship. When we came home, they had a little celebration for us. But when the baseball team came home, everybody showed up. And so I think the year after, the baseball team won, a year or two after, and they said that the baseball team was the first national championship. And we were like, no, they weren't. It was us. And so we did have that challenge. That is a challenge that, we've overcome. But that was a challenge that the women of the University of South Carolina were the first ever in the history of the school to bring home a national championship as a team for the university. And it wasn't celebrated as big as the baseball team was celebrated when they came back. We had a little bit of people out there, but when the baseball team came back, everybody was there. So that was a challenge. It was.
Imagine. Wow.
Yeah. But it was amazing. It was
no, that's good to hear.
Yes, it was definitely.
I have a question. What was it like, your career in high school? Were you among other? Do you have peers that was equally as good, or were you the standout there at your school?
So at my school, I was the standout. A couple of years, we did have a few young ladies that were really good. It was one young lady, she was really good. Her name was Demetria as well.
Okay.
And she was really good too. And so it was really good for us to be able to compete together. And even at the school, we even made it to state championships one year because we had myself, her, and 2 other ladies. And so we were competitive, and we in the 4x1 in the relay. It was amazing in high school. And I'll share this story because we're talking about overcoming. When I was in high school, the challenge, I rose to the occasion, and I took the challenge to do even better because at my school, I was the standout athlete. And so that means at practice, I'm running by myself. But I didn't take that opportunity to say, well, I'm the best here, so I'm just not going to practice, or, I'm just not going to come to practice, because if I wanted to, the coach would say, you don't have to come, because he knew. But I was like, no, I'm coming because I knew that my assignment was that I was a leader and there were other people watching me. And so I would still go to my practice, go home, and I was a cheerleader, and then go home and go to my summer track practice as well. But I would say one of the challenges that I did overcome is one year I went to the state indoor meet, and by myself, what place did I get, Mom? I got first place by myself out of all of the women teams. I scored 30 points. They would not give me the trophy.
Wow.
Because they said I wasn't a team. I was an individual person.
Oh.
And so they would not give it to me. And when you talk about my mama,
she had something to say?
Ooh, did she have something to say? She went off, and all I could do was see her head going like this. But it's true. As a woman, I scored 30 points.
Yeah.
Right.
And they said, well, you're only one person. You're not a team. And I was like, but I did this for my school. I want to take this back to my school. But they wouldn't give me the trophy. And so those are things that you overcome, and that's why it was that I couldn't just say, well, I don't have to go to practice if I don't want to. No, I have to go to practice. I'm still, even though the other athletes were not as good as me, no, I'm going to go and I'm going to practice with them and be right along with them. I'm going to push them along as well.
Amazing. That's and you took that well. It sounds like a lot of people wouldn't have been able to process that, and I just admire the way you was able to move forward despite your greatness and just keep going. That's something that our young people can learn from all over, to take things in stride. And life doesn't give you what you want all the time. You have to make it happen and make adjustments. Absolutely.
And speak up for yourself too.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, advocate for yourself a lot of times. And when you're younger, sometimes it is your parents.
Right. And we have 5 kids, but we tell our 14-year-old son that all the time. Our son is, since he was in my stomach, it was said that he was going to be a champion. So my son is like 6'1". He's 14 years old. He's 219 pounds. He's a baseball player and a football player, and he plays basketball to stay in shape. But we tell him that all the time, as in school and as in sports, your parents at this age are your best advocate. Okay, let us know when things happen. I was doing my morning walk this morning, and he had come in from a run, and I took him on the walk with me so I could talk to him and just tell him, you got to talk to us, in general. Yeah,
that's so true. Yes. Well, you touched on a point about high school, and I was curious because in 2024, opportunities look a little bit different for high school student athletes. When I was in high school, oftentimes the track coach that was not really their specialty.
Right.
It was something in addition to their regular duties. So can you talk a little bit about the opportunities that our current student athletes are afforded as compared to when you were in high school?
Right. So you're exactly right. Because when I was in high school, my track coach knew nothing about track. But the great thing is that I had a summer track team that my coach was amazing. So he did. And so what I see now, even in high school, because let's be honest, I'll say this, track is different from some of the other sports.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about high school and the coaches, because a lot of times in high school, you do see coaches, they've got to ask for a track coach. And it is someone who may not necessarily know anything about track. Football, you don't got to worry about it. Baseball, you probably don't have to worry about it. Basketball, you don't got to worry about it. The coaches usually know. But I would say this day and age, now it's becoming more prevalent that you do have high school coaches that do know about track and field. But I would say the amazing thing is that we have such track is becoming more prevalent, and so you do have a support system. So if your high school coach doesn't know about track, you still have your summer track coach or your rec track coach that knows something about it that can pour into you. And you're not left by the wayside if you're, for the talented kids, for the ones that this really is something that they want to do.
So true.
So, if you would, because I heard some amazing stories from your little bitty days growing up, that Pastor McDonald talked about you a lot.
Yes.
When do you actually remember Pastor McDonald, Coach McDonald at the time?
Man, probably running junior Olympic track.
Okay.
Running junior Olympic track, and a lot of my mom's friends, my dad's friends, especially my dad. But running junior Olympic track. Yeah, seeing a bunch of coaches out there, E. Smith and at Reed Ross and in different places just running. And, and the amazing thing about it was it was so many coaches out there, they all your coach. It wasn't just one, it was a plethora of coaches because they loved the sport. Yeah, so that was amazing. Yes.
Awesome. Was he vocal?
Yes. Listen, in track and field, if you ain't vocal, hey, yes, sir.
Okay, and tell me a little bit about your teaching. What is it that you do there for the school system, or are you currently active?
So I don't work in the school system anymore.
Okay.
It was about 2016. One of the principals at the school reached out to me and asked me would I be interested in a safe school coordinator job. Well, actually what happened is they invited me back to Terry Sanford to for a career day or something like that to come and talk to the students about my accomplishments. And so I did. And then maybe not too long after that, they reached out and asked would I be interested in a safe school coordinator. Do they have that here in?
I'm trying to think. Wait, I don't remember it from my high school
days.
Safe
school coordinator it works alongside with the admin. And basically it's kind of like, I was like the mama of the school. They kind of called me. I did the fire drills and things like that. But I also did mediation with the kids. So if they got into a fight, they come into my, things like that. And was able to talk to them, talk to the parents and things like that. So I did that from about 2016 until COVID happened. COVID, of course, they shut everything down and we were virtual. Once they went back into the schools, I didn't return. But I absolutely loved it because I was able to interact with the kids and I was able to build relationships with the kids. And actually to give back in a school that I graduated from Terry Sanford. And so that's what I did in the school system. Okay,
right. Cool. And the catering, you're active there.
Oh, yes.
So all this track, you're running, and your mom, and
right.
when did you have time to learn how to cook? Tell me about that.
So I've been cooking since I was 8 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been cooking since I was 8 years old. I used to cook for my mom, my dad.
Okay.
And then, I grew up in a family of cooks. So my grandmother, Lily, which her daughter's named after her, she cooked for us every Sunday. Going to Big Mama's house. My mom's mom, she would cook too, and so my mom and my grandmother actually worked together in the cafeteria system in Cumberland County schools. And my mom was a cafeteria manager for 20 plus years. And then on my dad's side, I have my grandmother that cooks, and I have an aunt that's a caterer.
Okay.
So it's always been in my blood, and I would always cook. So then, of course, go to college, and they call me Mama D. In college because I cook. And the football players and the basketball players and the track team, they come in to me to eat some salmon croquettes and some red beans and rice.
Okay.
That's good living in college.
Right. And me cooking, and they're like, hey, D, you cooking? And so it's always been there. And so I've always loved to cook. And I would say probably in about right before COVID, my husband and I went to another pastor's friend's house of ours, and we did date night. And so me and the wife were like, okay, we'll cook. And they were watching the game. She was like, well, you can cook, and I'll kind of wash the dishes. And so I think I did lamb chops, and then I did a white wine cream sauce.
Okay.
And I did some different things.
Okay.
And so they were like, have you ever thought about doing this for real? And I was like, no, I haven't. They was like, you really should. And so I just started by asking friends, family members, if I could come and cook for them in their home, like private chef, if I could do that. And I started Googling and doing different things. So I'm self-taught. I've always cooked and could cater a little bit, but private chef and doing that. And so I put it on Facebook and it blew up. And that's how it started. Yeah.
That's amazing. So we got that covered. So the ministry.
Right.
How did that happen?
Ministry. So, of course, I grew up in church. You know, it's been a part of my life. Went to college, still went to church. But it wasn't a relationship for me. It was go to church.
Right.
You know, go to church on Sunday. In my college dorm, you know, go to church on Sunday. Well, I know my dad gonna call and ask me, did I go to church? I need to know what the pastor preached about. You know, and it wasn't until some time, you know, right after I graduated. I mean, and I knew, of course I know God, but it's a difference between knowing God, going to church, and having a relationship with Him. And it wasn't until I heard the Lord tell me, you need more. You can't just sit here. You need more. And so I heard Him say that, and it just evolved. And as far as being a pastor, I would have never have thought about being a pastor. My husband came along and didn't know he was a pastor, of course, but, you know, when I found out, and it just happened, you know, married him. Still wasn't thinking I'm going to be a pastor. He's a pastor, you know, but the call was there. And so that's how it started. We just started pastoring and eventually moved to Fayetteville, North Carolina. Here we are.
I watch you deliver some of your sermons, and you do it with great intensity and feeling, and it's electrifying. So you're doing a wonderful job from what I can see there, the videos that I've seen you. So it's awesome.
Yes,
great job.
We thank God for that.
Yeah.
We thank God for that. Yes, because, you know, sometimes it can be intimidating.
Yeah.
You know, not just, and let's be real, seeing other people and seeing other things, but the one thing God has always told me is, and I had to embrace it, that you're peculiar, you do it how I tell you, because sometimes I'm like, God, you want me to do that? You really want me to do that? I used to be that way, but now, however He gives it to me, I'm going to do it. I don't care if I look crazy, because the main goal is to draw people to Christ.
Right.
And so whatever needs to draw them, I'm going to do whatever it takes to draw them.
And that's what come across when I was watching you. It's believable. You're believable. You believe in what you're doing, and it's amazing how everybody doesn't have that.
Yes, sir.
Some folks are just making noise.
Yes, sir.
And you're not.
Well,
You're telling you got a message to deliver.
Glory to God. Give Him all the praise. Yes.
Now you threw me a curveball before before we got on. Yeah, before we got on air. So I'm going to throw it back to you.
Okay.
What's your favorite part about ministry?
My favorite part about ministry, it's not hard for me to answer that question, because when you know what your purpose is, and you know exactly what you are purposed to do, and I believe you know what your purpose is because you've already said it, but I just want to hear you say it. But the greater good. My favorite part is loving people and being able to show people Christ. And understand that we are all relatable, and I can do it through transparency, that I'm touchable, that you don't, you know. So my favorite part is just loving people and being able to bring people back to Christ and point everyone back to Christ. And how do you do that? By your lifestyle. My favorite part is interacting with people. Sometimes people don't even know I'm a pastor. Because most of the times when I introduce myself, I don't say Dr. Demetria Davis or Pastor Demetria Davis or Prophet Demetria Davis or Minister, or I don't. I just say I'm Demetria Davis. And when you live your life, as the Bible says, as a living epistle, read of all men, and as we know, an epistle is a book, so they should be able to read my life, and they should be able to see it. That's my favorite part. Yeah, it's just loving people and being transparent enough that people can say, I need that. I need God.
Yeah, that aspect of being real. I think one of the things that came through as I was doing my research on you, one of the things that came to mind was Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6. In all your ways acknowledge Him, and He'll make your path straight. And it's just good to see that you're living that way. I think that that's something a lot of like people my age really need to understand. It was a learning curve for me too, because like we go to church and, there's not really a relationship there. But when you get to that relationship, you're able to say, okay, yes, God is in my life, right? God is not something I go to on Sundays. God is someone that works through me, right?
He's a part of your life.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Absolutely.
I know when you pulled up, I wanted to come out and see you step out the car because I was looking for something, but I knew it would show itself and that connection about there's somebody special right there. I don't know all about your life, but I could feel it as you approached the building, and I was satisfied. I know we have a special guest here tonight, is what I said to myself. So it shows, and you don't have to announce it, just like you talk about. People can feel it, and that's going to carry a long way. So
you already make me cry. No, I'm really tearing up because, that is one of the things that's what's important to me is that I don't ever want anyone to feel that I'm not touchable.
Right.
I don't, because that happens a lot in ministry.
Yeah.
And I'm not throwing shade or talking bad, but you see a lot of people, that are doing it for the hype.
Yeah.
And I seen a pastor friend of mine, she posted the other day, where is the pretty part of church? Because it's not always pretty. It looks like it is, but you're talking about warfare, you're talking about praying, you're talking about intercessory prayer. And so that really touched me, and that really encouraged me because I'm being honest, I'm a transparent person, is that we go through things.
Yes.
And sometimes the enemy will come in to try to make you feel like, nope, that's not what you're supposed to be doing or whatever. But to hear you say that you could feel that, it really means a lot because sometimes the enemy comes in to try to get you down. Situations, but it's only because the weapon tries to form. But I'm so grateful that I have a relationship with him that the weapon can't form. And I don't want to preach in here.
That's all right.
That's all right.
I always, the Bible talks about when you come into the knowledge of Christ.
Yes.
You learn new things. And we've always, and this is one of my favorite scriptures, and we say it all the time, is no weapon formed against me shall prosper. But I always tell people, read before and after. Do you know why the weapon cannot form? The weapon can't form because before that it says that God is the one that created us, his tools. He created the tools. He created all of us. So the weapon can't form because he created us and he knows us. And then after it says the part about no weapon formed against you shall prosper, below it says the reason why it can't is because if you serve him, it is your heritage that no weapon formed against you can prosper. Because if you serve him, you're his royal priesthood, and you're his tool, and he made you. He's the blacksmith. That's what it says. He's the blacksmith. So that's why no weapon can form. And so I'm so grateful, because things come in and the weapons try to form over all of us. But going back to, wait a minute, he's a blacksmith. He knows me. I serve him. It's my heritage. I'm an heir. Cut it out.
That's right. That's right. And he needs us to be that shining armor, that tool that go out into the world and let people know that we're a child of God, that God is real. That's powerful the way you just described that. I can identify with that.
And I think the transparency, the realness, the church is a hospital. I feel like people don't understand that. Like you said, where's the pretty part? There is no pretty part. It's warfare. There are sick and needy people. The people that claim that they don't want to go to church because they're hurting, they may not feel worthy, they may not feel justified, those are the very people that need to be in the church. And that's my testimony, certainly.
Well, and to your point about people being able to see you, and also thinking about what Daniel just said, sometimes people may not be ready to walk through those church doors, but they may see us, and we may be the walking inspiration that they need, and we may be the ones to impart a word to them when they need it. And God knows what people need and when they need it. So it is important that we continue to stand on his promises, because like you said, it's so easy to get caught up in, especially with social media and seeing everyone else and getting caught up in comparison, and the enemy tries to attack us in our mind. It starts in our mind. So we know it's a battle. That was one of the first lessons that Reverend McDonald talked about when he first came in our Bible study, about making sure that we have our Bibles, that we are in our word, and that we stand on his promises, because the enemy has so many tricks up his sleeve to try to get into our minds, to create self-doubt, to kind of question what it is that God has for our lives. And so we have to be steadfast in our faith and seek God each and every day.
Yeah, like you said, standing on the promises. I was going on my walk with my son this morning, and as I was looking through the wood line, I thought it was a playground, but it wasn't. And I was like, "What is that?" And so it was someone was walking on a foundation of looked like of a house. And so I always pray and ask God, like, show me something. And so what I seen was the foundation. Like you said, we have to stand on his promises. And then I went to 1 Corinthians 3, where it talks about that there's no other foundation that can be laid besides the one that has already been laid by Jesus Christ. But you can put stuff on top of it. You can build stuff on top of it. But you kept talking about your firm foundation. And the Lord showed me that we have to recover. He said the word recover to me, which means to regain process. So we have to recover the foundation, because it talks about in there that you can put silver, gold, all these different things on top of it. But there's going to come a time where the day will reveal it, and it will be tested. The quality will be tested. And if it holds up, then you get your reward. If not, you'll still be saved, but it's going to be like you came out of the fire. And you kept saying that you have to stand on your firm foundation, and it is time for us to recover our foundation.
Yes.
Recover it, get back to our foundation, which is our relationship with Christ, and understanding that we got to recover our mind.
That's right. And cut out the chatter. I mean, sometimes we have to disconnect from things to make sure that we are not so absorbed in the things that are happening, because there is a lot of things that are happening. And so, it's important for us to take that time, whether it's in the morning, we know what our schedules are like. So to really be intentional about our time with God.
Yes. My husband just said that last night.
Yeah, those are all good points. I want to build off what you just said, Kelsey, about one of Reverend McDonald's first sermons, this idea of having your identity firm in Christ. I wanted to ask you, Demetria, how did the formation of your identity in Christ go?
So it wasn't easy. My formation, of course, because the Bible says that he knew you before the foundations of the earth. So he knew, but like I said, at some point God was like, you need more. I need you to give me more. So then I married a pastor, which I hadn't ever thought about marrying a pastor. And shout out to my husband, Pastor, Apostle, Commissioner, Dr. Christopher Davis, my love. So, I marry him. But my formation of who I am in Christ, I really believe it came through some of the things that I've been through just in general. And a lot of times I used to question and say, I feel like I've never been through anything, because you hear all of these amazing comeback triumphant stories, but I have been through some things. And there's been situations in my life that have changed me. I've been through things, that other people may not have been through. But my formation and my identity in Christ came from that day that I sat on that in the back in that church, and God told me that you need more. And honestly, I said, okay. And I started going and visiting this church and being transparent. One day I was getting ready it was Sunday. I was like, okay, I got to go to church. But I knew that I needed some gas. And I was like, okay, my bank account looking kind of funny, money kind of funny. And so I was like, well, you know what? I'll just go to this church that I've been going to sometimes, but I'm not being fed. Or I can go on the other side of town to the church where I'm being fed. You know what the Lord said to me? He said to me, well, you can pay $20 to go to the club on the other side of town, but you won't put $20 in your gas tank to go to the church where you're being fed. So guess where I went? To the church that I was getting fed. So that's where my formation came in, is when I really started hearing what the Lord was saying. And as time has progressed, there are things that I've gone through that have opened my eyes, situations that have opened my eyes where, I've wanted to retaliate or I wanted to say things, and God says, be quiet. and he changed my whole perspective. He changed how I saw people, how I see, how I react, how I respond. He changed my language. He changed how I talk. He changed everything about me and my mindset. And so that's where the formation of that came into, is really hearing the voice of God and really taking hold to that.
You mentioned something that's very powerful, and I think that some people, especially those listening, who may wonder, what do I do when I'm at a church and I'm not being fed? And those words that you just mentioned, then go find another church. You did. But how does one recognize, describe what that's like, being fed and not fed, so that someone watching might be motivated, I need to make a change.
Right. Because not everyone will say, I heard the voice of the Lord. But what I would encourage you to do is take a step back and just say, okay, the ministry that I am a part of, the ministry that I am going to, does it challenge me? Does it challenge me to be a better person? Does it challenge my beliefs? Does it convict me when the word hits? Is it hitting me like, ooh? Or, is it just like, oh, okay? But does it challenge you when you leave that building or whatever? When you leave, are you challenged like, I need to make some changes? Does it hit you in the gut? Does it hit you in the heart? Does it have you thinking about it when you leave? Does it have you going to the Bible and going to the Word and say, you know what? Let me go back and see what Pastor McDonald said. Does it challenge you that you can be held accountable? And also, not just that, but are there people in your ministry that hold you accountable? Is your circle one that, are you the biggest person in your circle? Because I'm telling you right now, I don't want to be the biggest person in my circle. If I don't have people in my life that can say and call me and say, Demetria, no. But think about those things. And so if there's anyone watching that is in this limbo place of wondering, if you feel like I'm just going just to go, I'm not being challenged. I don't see a change in my life. I don't feel that fire to want to be involved in the ministry and to be able to help or to be able, then maybe it's time to take a step back. And maybe it's that God is speaking to you. You just really aren't listening.
That's right. You can't
Have
do
a
it.
conversation with your pastor.
That's right. You can't do it because mama and them been going
That's
there
right.
for 25 years,
Right.
50 years. It's been the family church. If you're not being fed, your course, your path to heaven,
That's
to
right.
God, that's your own.
That's your own.
And you can't go down that path of following other people.
That's right.
And I just hope people, somebody listening might be motivated to listen to what she just shared, because the church is full of good people. And they're going to love on you, and they're going to care about you. And what a wonderful experience that is to find somebody to say, I got you. They encourage you. I know I love being here at this church, St. Paul AME Church here in Raleigh. It's some wonderful people here, always encouraging, always uplifting. And then we got some crazy, sure, everybody does.
Right.
Everybody does, but it's okay.
Yes,
it's okay.
Because we're not perfect. But I want to encourage somebody, as what he said, but I want to encourage you, if you are in a ministry where you feel like you're not being fed, let me encourage you, there is a right way to do it. Don't just leave. Okay, don't just leave. I encourage you to take a step back and analyze and do introspection and inspect yourself and say, okay, is it just me? Or am I really not being fed? And if you feel that you aren't, you need to have a conversation with your leader. Because who knows that once you have that conversation with your leader isn't able to share something with you and able to say something to you that sparks something in you that makes you see yourself and you say, you know what, it was me the whole time. I don't need to leave this place. Or you'll come away from that conversation knowing if it's you or, okay, it is time for me to go. But I'm telling you right now, the right way to do things, and I can't be nothing but real.
Oh, be real.
Stop hopping from church to church.
Yeah.
Leaving your church because somebody made you upset. Maybe you need to be made upset because it's conviction. Stop hopping from church to church, y'all. Okay, stop doing that. But have conversations with your leaders. If you feel like your leaders are not approachable, then you need to let your leader know.
Yeah. You can't hop. You
yeah.
can't hop. The problem is you. At that point, it sounds like you definitely got to look.
Common denominator.
Yes.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I encourage you, if that is where you are and you're in a place where you're wondering if you still belong in your ministry, self-evaluation, but talk to your pastor, talk to the minister, talk to your leader, and tell them how you are feeling. Don't just leave. Yeah.
So, you mentioned that you did experience some challenges growing up as a youth through high school and college, and some setbacks. But on a religious level, was there a time, maybe in college or after college, maybe, that you questioned your faith? You had any doubt, maybe before you became a pastor, where life and things weren't going as well as you wanted them to go? And if so, how did you handle that? What brought you back? What reminded you that, this is not me. I gotta get back to what mom and dad taught me, what I believe in, what my church taught me. And was there ever a point in your life?
I can honestly say there was never a point in my life that I thought about, because again, there's a difference between church and relationship. There was never a time that I just left church because, I went to college, and so I didn't join a church when I was in school, but I would go to a church.
Right.
Of course, when I would come home, I would go to my parents' church. And even after college, when I moved to Raleigh, because I used to live in Raleigh for like a year or so, but I didn't necessarily join a church, but I still would go to church, and I would come home to my mom's church and my dad's church sometimes, but there was a church that I would frequent that I really felt like I was being fed. So I can say that I never got away from it where I felt like, I'm not doing the church thing, or I'm getting away from God. But I can say there have been times, and I believe that we all go through this, where I doubted like warfare. And I'm like, oh my God, I just want to give up. And I can be honest and tell you that sometimes it gets rough being a pastor and pastoring a ministry that I'm like, oh my gosh, I want to, you want to give up. You have those split second moments like, oh my God. But then I'm like, I would never do that, because this is where God has called me to be. And me giving up, not because of who I am, but because of what the assignment God has, that could totally deter somebody else.
Right.
So I've never just said, oh no, but I have doubted before, like, I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like it's not working, but what did I do? I took time to pray. I took time to seek counsel. I took time to fast and consecrate and ask the Lord to show me in the area in me that I needed for Him to fix. So that's what I would say.
Okay. So what's next on the radar? I mean, you still got a long life, God willing, ahead of you. What do you hope to accomplish in the years that come in the future?
I hope to accomplish whatever the Lord has for me. I mean, as far as my family, we have 5 kids. I have 2 grandkids right now. So I just want to love my family, be with my family. My husband and I have been married for 15 years.
Okay,
so we're going to continue that. We're going to have more grandbabies, and we have no more kids. Please, Lord. But continuing in ministry, building ministry with my Force of Life family, we do it together. We serve together. So all of my Force of Life family, building with them, our kids, watching them grow and play sports and doing things. My mom, being there for my mom and my brother. Continuing with my business with Dee's Champion Cuisine Catering. Me catering is not just doing food. It is a ministry for me. It is really an assignment, because it takes me back to when I was running and prepping, and the adrenaline rush and the satisfaction that I get from that. My customers are happy. My clients are happy. And so continuing that wherever God takes me and wherever He leads me, internationally, ministry, continuing to allow God to use me however He sees fit to use me. And I know that we are going to do whatever God says, nationally, regionally, locally, and internationally, because I know it is. That's what's next. I don't run anymore, but I am still a part of USA Track and Field, and so I'm excited because I will be going to the Olympics this year. So I am excited about that. And I tell people, do what it is that's on your heart. I'm 43 and I model. And so I want to be a brand ambassador for clothing. And so whatever the Lord has, because I want people to understand, just because you're a Christian does not mean that you cannot do stuff, because they need us. Because everything that I do, I pray about, and it's an assignment. When I do pageants. When I did that pageant, it was a total assignment from the Lord. And so many wonderful things have come from that. Me going to the Olympics this year, it is an assignment. My food, the stuff that I do, it is an assignment. When I model and when I do photo shoots, it is an assignment. And it's always God always shows up.
How did that invitation come about to attend the Olympics that's coming? How does that come up?
So when I was still running, I think it was about in 2008, there was a indoor in Valencia, Spain, and I was still running, but I was injured. And so even though I was injured, I happened to look on USA Track and Field's website, and they had something called an athlete liaison to go to the world championships indoors, to be a liaison with the athletes. And I was like, So I applied for it back in 2008. I got letters of references. They picked me. And so since then, after, I don't run anymore. So since then, I just stayed a part of USA Track and Field, and I've been on many USA Track and Field World Championship teams. And so when the last Olympics came, I did put the bid in, but I didn't get it, which was okay. And I was okay with that, because the Lord had already told me at some point, you will be able to be on the Olympic team, to be able to help, in the backgrounds. So I applied this time, and I was appointed as one of the managers. So I will be over there for about a month, and I'll be helping. And I do it all of the time, World Championships, the teams that I've been on, where I help behind the scenes. So like before they come out to run, we're behind the scenes making sure their uniform is right, making sure they get to their points at the right time so you can see them on the screen. And so that's how that came about. And it is exciting to be able to go back to Paris, because the very stadium that the Olympics is in is where I received my gold medal in 2003 and stood on the podium to receive my gold medal. I'm going back to the exact same stadium. And so it's a full circle moment. And because even at that time, my father was there, and he's passed, but it is a full circle moment that I get to, be back in the same stadium.
That's wonderful.
I imagine it's an opportunity to make a difference, if it's just 2 or 3 positive words of encouragement to the athletes. So you're going to do a lot of good there. That's what I believe.
Yes, sir.
Amazing.
I received that, and I know it's an assignment. Yes, and I'm excited. Yes, sir.
With all the things that you have going on, can you talk a little bit about how you balance?
Yes. Yes. So, one of the things that people always ask, they go, how do you do all this? And so one of the things that I will say is my husband and I have gotten really good with counting up the cost. We sit down and we talk about everything. I remember when my husband was running for city council, and I had decided that I was going to go back to school online and get my master's degree. But we have 2 kids that do sports, and we have a ministry. I just had to count up the cost. I had to see when his campaign season was, and seeing that, I knew that I needed to take a lighter load because of my son and my daughter in sports. And so usually it's just a thing of prioritizing my life and knowing what's good and what's not for me at that time. I have a calendar like this. Like I can't do the phone thing like that.
Me too. Yep.
I'm old school.
I gotta write it down.
I like to see it all. So I keep a calendar. I write things out. I write lists. I check my lists off. I prioritize. I bounce it off my husband. Are we good? Are we not? And I just try to put things in their right categories and the right perspective, so I know what to do, when to do it. And so that's how. Yeah. And the number one foundation, God. Yeah. That's how. It really is.
That's great.
So at this time, you mentioned in terms of being organized is a plus, a positive tool to have, being focused, and definitely keeping God as your center.
Right.
But for people that are not as well connected, how would you encourage someone who's wondering, should I seek the Lord more? Should I seek God? Who is God? Those who have questions, go to church might be the simple answer, but we do this show so that people may find something to connect with, and that's why we do it every 2 weeks. We're hoping to share something and bring people with us as we go on this journey to be a witness and to let people know that God is real and that there are some good things, there's some great things by plugging into his community, his body of Christ, the body of Christ, and you can accomplish some great things with the support system that's there. So how would you encourage somebody to take a deeper look for that young person watching?
Right. So what I would say to a younger person, middle-aged person, older person, that may not have that, you're saying, connection with Christ, is somebody that has a connection with Christ. You know somebody in your reach. You know somebody. So I would say reach out to them, number one. Number two, if you're in the area, come to this church. Reach out to them, their Facebook page, their website. There are so many different avenues. So let me say this, because I told my son this, so I'm going to tell you a quick story. My son, he got in trouble, so we took his phone, right? But he still had his laptop from school. So somehow he figured out, and he was still communicating with his friends. And I said, how are you communicating? WebEx. Y'all are doing a whole WebEx to talk to each other. But here's what I showed him, is I said, now, you got in trouble. Now, mind you, this is a young man who is great in football. He's great in baseball. He's left-handed. He is amazing. He can play basketball, okay? He is in the academically intelligent and gifted program, okay? A's and B's. But this report card, he got a couple of C's. Because he said, I got lazy and didn't turn in a few assignments, right? But so we took his phone, but you could figure out how to get on WebEx. I said, do you see something? I said, now, I'm teaching you about problem solving, because we took your phone, but what did you do? You figured out what? I figured out how to communicate. Well, then that tells me that you can figure out how to get your schoolwork done. So what am I saying, and why did I say that? Because there's somebody out here that's saying, well, how do I get a deeper connection with God? You know somebody. You can figure it out. You can figure out how to buy them Timbs. You can figure out how to buy them Jordans. You can figure out how to get them nails done. You can figure out how to get the bills paid. So there's research out here. There are so many different ministries online that you can research. You can look into, research them, follow them, see if that fits you. There's people that are motivational speak. There are so many different avenues. There is no excuse. You know, listen, I'm available. Hey, my name is Demetria Davis. Inbox me. What's your name? Kelsey. Inbox her. What's your name?
James Brent.
James. Inbox her. What's your name?
Daniel Taylor.
Inbox us. Okay, y'all know how to DM.
Come to church on Sunday.
Come to church on Sunday. And guess what? If you're not ready to come to church, message them.
Yeah.
Message the church. Look the church up. What's the name of the church? St. Paul's AME, right? Look them up. Look them up on Facebook. Look them up on a website. And inbox them, and somebody can help you. If you're not St. Paul's, look in your area, or just Google and look. Y'all know some of these. Y'all can find it.
Absolutely. And I just think with the four of us sitting here and this great church behind us and your church, it's a place, and we're people where we're going to tell you, you can do it.
You can do it.
We're not going to tell you that you can't. We're not going to tell you that your dream is crazy. No. We're going to find a way to support you. We're going to help find. We might not have all the answers.
But we're going to help you find it.
We're going to help you find it.
We're going to walk it out with you.
That's it.
Yes. We're going to walk it out.
So if someone in the Fayetteville area, I don't know what, I'm just assuming Fayetteville, but your business, if they want your service, I mean, how do they reach you? How do they get some of that good food you was talking about?
So the name of my business is Dee's Champion Cuisine, and of course it came because I got the gold medal. And so my slogan is food with a champion flair. It's a lifestyle, because I really feel like, food is my lifestyle, but that really also came from my relationship with Christ. It's not just an event. It's a lifestyle. you know. And so if you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram, or you can find me on Facebook under D's Champion Cuisine. And I also do have a website. So my website is demetriadavis.com, and on demetriadavis.com I have some different, you know, tabs, but you can see D's Champion Cuisine there. And so if you're interested, I do travel, I do private chef, I do catering, and just let me know.
Okay. And if somebody wake up one Sunday morning,
Right.
and they need to hear the word, how do they find you?
Right. So if you are looking and you need to hear the word, we are online, Force of Life Fayetteville. So Force of Life Fayetteville, Force of Life Ministries in Fayetteville, 2415 Gary Street. And we start at 11 o'clock, and that is our service on Sundays. Wednesdays, we're at 7 o'clock, and we call it bodybuilding because we believe in building the body of Christ, one person at a time. So that's how you can find us. And we're online on Facebook Live on Wednesdays and on Sundays as well at 11 o'clock. And so, yeah, and you can find us there.
Awesome.
Faith, Family, and Fellowship will meet you at the door.
And too, I hope that, you know, people watching have learned, have picked up something worth sharing.
Yes.
We do encourage you to share this program. You know, after it ends, you know, send it to your loved one, send it to a young person, old person, doesn't matter if they're breathing, living. I hope that I know that they can learn something from this segment. That's why we're doing it. And there's some powerful information shared here tonight. Daniel and Kelsey, do you have just one more question each before we get ready to bring it to a close?
Do you have anything?
I think I'm good.
You think you're good?
Definitely been blessed this
Yeah.
evening.
Been blessed. Well, with that, I am so elated that you came to share. And it's amazing, and great things are ahead. You have a long life for you, and I hope that you get all your goals and dreams met. I believe that you will, and your husband and your children and your mom, having the chance to meet her, I can see some of those qualities in you. And she's here. She's in the studio, y'all. She's here with her daughter, and it's just amazing to see that family connection. And we need more of that, Kelsey. We need to teach our young people that, you know, there's something powerful about being together, about showing support for one another. And it doesn't matter whether anybody else like it. We just need to love on each other. You know what I mean?
It is family. My husband and I just want to say this real quick because you said that. And you talked about family. We do a radio show on the first Tuesday of the month, and we talked about family. And we talked about family does not always look like blood, but it is. And someone said something like, well, you know, the term blood is thicker than water. Yes, it is, but guess what? Sometimes water has to come in to stop the drought.
That's right.
And so it may not be a family member by blood, but we have to understand that in the body of Christ, family are those that you connect with. And so I hope what he said, y'all, encourages you really to understand the power of family.
That's good.
And understanding that.
Yeah, that's deep. I say that all the time. I mean, I'm vibing with you because there's some people that'd be closer than a brother and a sister that are not related to you. They might not even be in the same ethnic makeup as you.
Exactly.
But they got your back, and that's important because in the times that we're in, we need that support that we can count on, and it's hard to find. All right, then. Well, I think that brings our show to a close just about. We're going to, again, encourage everyone to share this show with as many as you can. I hope you enjoyed it. I do believe that if she's willing to come back, she is due to come back here again because we couldn't get it all in. We just could not get it all in.
Absolutely, but I have one request. If I come back, can I bring my husband?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Of course.
Yes,
We have a request
absolutely.
too. Can you bring some food?
I may be able to do that.
We'll put it on
smarter.
there.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll go ahead and say for now, good night, and tune in 2 weeks to watch us again on another exciting episode of the Overcomer's Journey. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Thank you.